So I debated if I was going to make a video about this. I mentioned it during my stream earlier today, but I decided I'll give him at least one video. I think if I'm being fair and I've been able to give someone like Asa Hutchinson, who I know has no chance of winning whatsoever, a singular video that's devoted to their campaign launch, I should do the same with someone that probably has a little bit of a higher chance, but still is going to flounder as well. Conservative talk radio host Larry Elder announced Thursday that he's launching a 2024 presidential campaign, joining a growing list of Republicans vying for the GOP nomination. I am announcing I am running for the presidency of the United States, Elder told Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Asked for his key reasons for running, Elder pointed to securing the border and suggested Democrats were labeling America systemically racist. He also decried what he said as a lack of fathers in the home. Elder will speak at the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition this weekend. Other 2024 GOP hopefuls are expected to speak as well, including former President Donald Trump, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson, and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who recently launched an exploratory committee. Elder was the top Republican opponent to California Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat during the unsuccessful recall effort in 2021, which had emerged due to partisan anger over the governor's pandemic response. Elder opposed most COVID 19 restrictions, minimum wage, cashless bail, and defunding the police. A robust turnout from Democrats in California, who outnumbered Republicans 2-1, allowed Newsom to keep his job, but Elder's name recognition pushed him to the top of the challenger field in the recall, garnering the most support among GOP voters. Elder, who had previously said President Joe Biden won in 2020 fairly and squarely, has been a supporter of Trump. Taking a page from the former president's playbook on lies about election fraud, Elder basically raised the prospect of shenanigans in California before the results were announced in the recall. Still, he acknowledged the defeat of the recall effort on the night of the election. Elder spent the past few decades in the media industry, writing multiple books and hosting TV shows. He began hosting his radio show, The Larry Elder Show, in 1993. Elder also practiced law and went on to start his own legal recruitment firm, Lawrence A. Elder and Associates, which he owned for 15 years. The radio host has faced heavy scrutiny related to his long history of disparaging remarks about women, and he has been accused of domestic violence and of brandishing a gun in 2015 by his then fiancee and former employee, Alexander Daddick. Elder has denied the allegations. Elder joins the GOP primary field still in its early stages. Trump, who announced his 2024 bid last year as leading contender, with former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, Hutchinson, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy also in the mix. I finally remembered how to pronounce his name. A number of other Republicans, including Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former Vice President Mike Pence, have been making moves suggesting they are considering presidential bids. So, I just want to say this. Out of any contender in this primary, so on the Republican side, besides Trump, Elder's the one I've had the longest familiarity with. He used to, well, he still does, but like the radio show, something that my grandpa used to listen to, and I would be in the car with him. And Elder's whole, and this is my opinion, his whole like shtick, or I guess gimmick, is that he's black and he's a Republican, and he's supposed to be their token character to promote any idea or thing they have that would otherwise be considered discriminatory if the, I guess, Caucasian members of their party say it. Now, I don't think Elder is any worse than the rest of them. And like I said, the article does mention that he admitted that Biden won fairly, which is a big step, and makes him look a hell of a lot less crazy than most members of his own party, who either claimed without any evidence that Biden cheated or, just tried to hold their tongue for until certifying the results. So what gets me is that Republicans are no strangers to having black people run for president. I've said before, I think in statewide elections, and more specifically in congressional races, so at the statewide level, local level, I think blacks can win the nomination among Republicans. But I do not see the current Republican Party nominating an African American for president, or in any capacity. It's like as its lead person for an election. We have seen this saga play out before. Um, and I really I keep saying I hate saying it. I hate admitting it. But go look at Alan Keyes. Go look at Herman Cain. Go look at Carson. I mean, these are. It's the same thing where there's a black person who pretty much says all the stuff that Republicans agree with, right? Oh, we need small government. Democrats destroy households, whatever. Um, they put out some books. You know, they're kind of active in the media world. And after getting some higher name recognition from either just being around a long time or espousing the conservative positions that Republicans seem to like, they run for president. They get maybe 500,000 votes, something under that. They win no states or very, very few, if any, contest whatsoever. And after that, they spend the rest of their life doing radio gigs and appearing on different people's shows. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen to Elder. I think he is running to increase his name recognition. And after he drops out, probably before Iowa or right after Iowa, I'd be shocked if he makes it to Super Tuesday, for example. He'll probably go right back to doing his show, and he'll endorse Trump as he did in 2016. And really, that's the only part of this that took me by surprise, because he's such a diehard supporter of his. I didn't expect him to go against their leader. Although one of the things I have said is that a lot of, not even just Republicans, but there are a lot of Democrats too who, for example, really want to be president themselves, but they feel if they run against Biden, they're going to destroy their career and the party's going to blame them. And, you know, they're going to be accused of, you know, just messing him up and screwing up his chances to get real. So even if they're ambitious, they're all patiently waiting their turns like good little boys and girls, so they can have another shot. And I thought Elder was going to do the same thing, but it makes a lot of sense that a person who would challenge Trump would, like half of them are people who aren't even in office anymore. You've got a former Arkansas governor, you got a former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor, you have and now a radio host who's never held office. But I made this point during the stream. I said, isn't it strange to have someone who lost a statewide race then run for president? And I compared Elder to O'Rourke, although in O'Rourke's case, that made a little bit more sense as far as like he almost won. But it's really nuts to me that you would lose a gubernatorial race in your home state, and then be like, all right, well, now that I've lost, I couldn't cut it as governor. Let me try to be president. I just think that's really weird. Although I guess maybe he's trying to invoke Nixon. Someone else who lost the gubernatorial race was the Pat Brown in '62 and came back and successfully ran for president 6 years later. But Elder's got a lot of issues that he has to work out. His foreign policy views are basically unknown. And he just has to carve out a lane for himself. But I don't see Republicans voting for a black person, at least the majority of them. Maybe 5%, 10%. Maybe if he plays his cards right and avoids criticizing Trump directly, he can get a nice cabinet job like Carson did. But I don't see him making it. And like I said, I think his positions are pretty lousy from what I've heard. But they're no worse than the rest of them, so it wouldn't bother me if he won the nomination. In fact, I probably would say that I'd prefer him to win it over maybe anyone else in the field besides Haley. But even it's like that still isn't, really like an endorsement at all. It's just a strange campaign, and I can't imagine what good is going to come out of this. Like, there's no difference between him and Trump, or at least if there is, I haven't seen any policy related. He seems to agree with them on everything. And I think him and Scott are going to play a pretty similar game of being these people who tell you anecdotal stories about themselves, but are basically the exact same as Trump, minus the mean rhetoric and entertainment value. And they're going to fizzle out shortly into the actual voting process, like around January, February of next year. So these candidates, man, it's like the more that enter, because we talk about like the 2020 Democratic field, like it or not, and I did not like a majority of the people that ran. They were diverse. You had some progressives, some moderates, some people who took like interesting stances on certain issues. With this field, it's all, you either are Trump or you're not Trump. And even the people who aren't Trump seem to agree with him on pretty much every policy. So I hope at some point they ask Elder, what do you bring to this race? What specific thing do you disagree with Trump on? What do you want? Like, it's all just generic stuff that you could get from him, and that's why, as long as these candidates keep being so unremarkable, he's going to keep winning. So Elder's going to join the list of black Republicans who thought they could but didn't.